theories. Now, cognitive theories emphasize on the cognitive process. Cognitive learning theories establish a relationship between cognitive environmental cues and expectations. Edward Tolman is widely recognized as a cognitive theorist. He conducted an experiment using rats as the subject. He found that a rat could learn to run through an intricate maze with purpose and direction towards a goal. And the goal for the rat was the food. The rat learned to expect that certain cognitive cues associated with the choice point might eventually lead to the food. Tolman's approach is depicted into stimulus, right? That is yes. In other words, stimulus versus stimulus. In other words, learning is associated between the cue and the expectancy. Employees expect higher salaries, promotions, and high quality of work life. Employees learn that they can achieve their expectations by working productively. The realization of working productively is the result of cognitive environmental cues. Organizational behavior researchers are currently concerned about the relationship between cognitions and the organizational behavior. Okay, so that's about the cognitive theory. The next is the social learning theory. People learn through different means like observation of others, direct experiences, and indirect experiences. Learning through these various means is called the social learning. Social learning integrates behavior concepts, cognitive concepts, and environmental determinants. Social learning takes place through reciprocal interactions among people, behavior, and environment. Reciprocal interaction takes place by integrating operant and cognitive learning approaches. This theory recognizes that learning takes place through various means like vicarious modeling, and self-controlling processes. People learn from various models like parents, teachers, peers, leaders, managers, superiors, etc. The influence of models is significant in the social learning theory. There are 4 processes through which the model influences the individuals. These 4 processes include the attention process, retention process, motor reproduction process, and reinforcement process. Let's look at the attention process. What is attention process? People learn from critical features of models like leadership skills, attractiveness, timely decision making, etc. Retention process. What is it? The level of influence of the model depends on the level to what extent the individual remembers the model. How is he able to retain what he has learned? And the third one is the motor reproduction process. What is motor reproduction process? People may times imitate the models. Children imitate parents and teachers. This is because observation is converted into action. Reinforcement process. Individual prefers to exhibit the behavior of the model. As such behavior results in rewards for people pay more attention to and learn positively reinforce behavior of the models. Managers can shape employees' behavior by systematically reinforcing each successive steps moves the individual closer to the desired response. Reinforcement will increase the response more closely approximate to the desired behavior. Now you check your progress, define learning, and discuss the characteristics of learning. Try and answer these questions, which is already very, very clear in your books. Right. Next, we move on to the influence of attitudes on work behavior. What is an attitude? An attitude is a mental state of readiness, learned and organized through experience, exerting a specific influence on a person, response to people, object, and situation with which it is related. Attitudes are understood also as beliefs, feelings, action tendencies of an individual group or an individual towards objects, ideas, people. The simple meaning has important implication for managers. Right? Attitude refers to feelings, beliefs of an individual group. The feelings and beliefs define one's predisposition towards given aspect of the world. Attitude endures unless something happens. For example, X is transferred to day shift. His attitude may become positive. Attitudes are organized and are core to the individual. All people, irrespective of the status, intelligence, hold attitudes. Everyone has the attitude about many things and these are not necessarily a bad thing. One aspect of employees' attitude is the impact it can have on people around them. People with a positive attitude can lift spirits of their co-workers, while persons and people with a negative attitude can lower the spirit. Sometimes this principle works in reverse, and attitude are more complex than positive or negative, right? So let's look at some of the components of the attitude. In general, there are three components, right? And they are affective components, the feelings, sentiments, moods. Affective components, feelings, sentiments, mood, emotion about some idea, person, or even an object. Cognitive component, the beliefs, opinion, or information held by individual. Behavioral component, the predisposition to get a favorable or unfavorable evaluation of something. These three components do exist, function separately. An attitude represents the interplay of person's affective, cognitive, and behavioral tendency with regard to a person, group, or ever an issue. Now, work-related components of attitude are cognition, that is beliefs and values, right? Example, my superior is unfair. Affect, feelings and emotions, I don't like my superior. Behavior, that is the intended behavior. And the example, I'm going to request for a transfer. So you see how cognition, effect, and behavior, right, influences the attitude of an employee. That is the example given here. Okay. Formation of attitude. How attitudes are formed. Individuals acquire attitude from several sources, but the point to be stressed here is that attitudes are acquired but not inherited. The most important source of acquiring attitudes are direct experience with the object, association, feeling, neighborhood, economic, social positions, and mass communications. Direct experience with the object. Attitudes can develop from a personally rewarding or punishing experience with an object. Employees form attitude about jobs or from the previous. For example, if everyone who has held a job been promoted within 6 months, current job holders are likely to believe that they'll also be promoted within 6 months. Classical conditioning and attitude. One of the basic processes underlying attitude formation can be explained on the basis of learning principle. The same classical conditioning processes that made Pavlov's dog salivate at the sound of a bell, can explain how attitudes are acquired. People develop association between various objects and the emotional reaction that accompany them. Advertisers make use of the principle of classical conditionings of attitudes by attempting to link a product they want consumers to buy with positive feelings or events. Family and peer group. A person may learn attitude through imitation of parents. If parents have a positive attitude to an object and the child admires his parents or her parent, is likely to adopt a similar attitude, even without being told about the object, even without having a direct experience. Attitude towards the opposite sex, religion, tolerance, prejudice, education, occupation, political parties, almost all the areas where attitudes are capable of expression are the result of our accepting or rejecting the attitude held by the members of our family. Similarly, attitudes are acquired from peer groups or colleges and organizations. Neighborhood. The neighborhood we live has a certain structure in terms of its having cultural facilities, religious groupings, and possibly ethnic differences. Further, it is the people who are neighbors, the neighbors who are adults and children, tolerate, condone, or deny certain attitudes and behavior. And as a result, we are either northerners or southerners. We accept these moves and conform, and we deny them and possibly rebel. Economic status and occupation. Our economic and occupational position also contributed to attitude formation. They determine in part our attitude towards union and management and our beliefs that certain laws are good or bad. Our socio-economic background influences our present future attitudes. Mass communication. All varieties of mass communication, that is the television, radio, newspaper, magazine, feed their audiences large quantities of information. The presentation of the news or information is constructed so as to cater to the attitude of the audience. In turn, the audience selects a specific form of mass communication that best reflects in the attitudes of various subjects. functions or classification of attitude. Okay. So attitudes can be positively or negatively affect the person's behavior. A person who has positive attitude towards work and co-workers, such as contentment, friendliness, can positively influence those around them. This positive attitude are usually manifested in a person's behavior. People with a good attitude are active and productive and do what they can to improve the moods of those around them. In much the same way, a person who displays a negative attitude, such as discontentment and boredom, etc., will behave accordingly. People with these types of attitude towards it may likewise affect those around them and behave in a manner that reduces efficiency and effectiveness. Attitudes and behavior interact differently based upon attitudes in the question. Understanding different types of attitudes and their likely implication is useful in predicting how individuals' attitudes may govern their behavior. Okay, sorry. Daniel Katz uses four attitudes classifications or functions. Now, what are they? The utilitarian point of view, knowledge, ego defensive, and value expressive. Let us look at each one. Utilitarian refers to an individual's attitude as derived from self or community interest. An example could be getting a raise. A raise meaning more possible disposable income. Employees will have positive attitude about getting a raise, which may positively affect their behavior in some circumstances. Next, knowledge. Logic or rationalizing is another means by which people form attitudes. When an organization appeals to people's logic and explain why it is assigning tasks or pursuing a strategy, it can generate a more positive disposition towards the task or strategy, or vice versa if the employees does not recognize why a task is logical. Ego defensive. If people have a tendency to use attitudes to protect their ego, resulting in a common negative mind. If a manager criticizes employees' work without offering suggestions for improvement, employees may form negative attitudes and subsequently dismisses the manager as a foolish in an effort to defend their work. Managers must therefore carefully manage criticism and offer solutions, not just simply identifying the problems. Right. Now, value expressive. People develop certain values over time. These values are not always explicit or simple. Managers should always be aware of what is important to their employees from a value perspective, right? Telling them this is, that is, and what do they stand for, and why do they do what they do, all this. Having such an awareness in management to align organization vision with an individual value, thereby generating passion among the workforce, changing attitude. Employees' attitude need to be changed, particularly when they are unfavorable. It is the best interest of the organization to change the attitudes. For changing difficult tasks and attitudes generally endure. Difficulty is reinforced because of the escalation, commitment, cognitive dissonance, insufficient information. Attitude needs to be changed in two forms: changing one's own attitude and changing one's employee's attitude. Now, how do you change one's self-attitude, right? Changing attitudes of self, it is given point-wise, very simple. You don't need to really explain, I don't need to explain more. I'm sure you'll be able to understand. Just look at point by point. How can we change the attitude of oneself? By being aware of our own attitudes, right? For thinking for self. We should learn to think about our own self, become aware of our own attitudes, and realize that there are few, if any, benefits from harboring negative attitudes, right? So understand that it is not worth to have negative attitudes and keep an open mind. Get continuous education program. That is, you keep updating yourself, educating yourself, and then you build a positive self-esteem and stay away from the negative influences that will reduce your efficiency in work. Now, what about the employees? What should be their changing attitude? The employees must constantly keep giving feedback to employees, right, about their negative attitudes ensure proper working condition to the employees with the relevant resources. But they should be positive role model, making employees aware of the new advancement and the benefits in the organization, inducing moderate level of fear among the employees, so that there is a balance between both the attitudes of the employee as well as the individual. Organization attitudes and behavior. Okay? So with this, we are coming to the end of this topic, right? Of organizational attitudes and behavior. Okay. So one key to altering an individual behavior is consistency. Fostering initiative that influences behavior is not enough. Everyone in the organization needs to be committed to success of this initiative. It is also important to remember certain activities will be more effective with some people than with others. Management may want to outline a few different behavior change strategies to have the biggest effect across the organization and take into consideration the diversity inherent in any group. Okay, so check your progress, compare your answers with the one given at the end of the year. Explain the functions of the attitude. It is already given, it's very clear. Okay, and influence of personality on work behavior. Okay, very important to understand how personality can have impact on the work. And there are certain determinants of the personality which makes the personality to be or behave in a particular way. Right? The word personality it can be traced to the Latin word personoia, translated to